My philosophy is really that all children can learn, and that through what I do and through my observations of the children, that I really need to be working and helping the children to do the best that they can in school and in life. So, when I have children who are having trouble paying attention, who are having trouble sitting still, who are having trouble with tantrums, I see it as my job to do whatever I can do, give them and their families as many strategies as I can possibly give them so that they can succeed in school and therefore in life. This is my 7th year teaching. I've been in Milwaukee Public Schools and actually in this school all 7 years. This is my 6th year of teaching in Head Start. So my first year teaching I taught in a K-5 classroom. In K-3 they're a lot more innocent and happy. I find that a lot of the hardships that children go through, that they don't really understand them at this age. And when they get a little bit older, they start to understand what's going on in their lives and they start to get pretty angry. So I find a lot of times with the 3-year-olds, I've had, for example, I had a 3-year-old come to school and say, "My daddy gets out of jail when I'm 18." And they're so excited about it because they don't have any concept of what that means. Earlier today, one of the children had those teddy bears, and we have this little, they match the faces, and each of the faces has a different emotion on it. And we use those and talk about, how do you think she's feeling, and what could she do if she's feeling that angry? And, try and give the kids strategies at this age, something to do so that they know how to handle those stronger emotions when they start to feel them. We use a lot of literature-based learning, so a lot of concepts, a lot of the harder concepts, courage and safety and perseverance and friendship, a lot of those themes we'll see in a lot of the books. We also use a second step curriculum, and I think that does a pretty good job of explaining what strong emotions are and different strategies that children can use to deal with those strong emotions. And I just hope as they get older that they're able to remember some of that. I can always look at a child and look at their behavior and know right away, or be able to do some research into why they're doing what they're doing. Children always do everything for a reason. It always gets them something. So with them, I'm able to kind of look at, what are you doing and why are you doing this and what can we do to manage that? For example, I have a little boy in the morning who you saw this morning who needs a lot of sensory input, and so we can give him the sit and spin, and he can go out in the hallway and spin until he's done. He has things to chew on, he has things to sit on, just different things like that we can remedy those situations. However, it's when he comes into the classroom with a big honey bun and sugary juice in the morning, that's the harder struggle for me, is dealing with those parents and being able to try and teach them without sounding like I'm trying to tell them how to parent. You get a lot of parents who get very defensive about, the way that they raise their children, but who also may not be educated enough to understand the best ways to do some things. Nutrition is a big one. Discipline at home is another big one. I had a child last year who was very angry a lot, and he was always complaining and whining, and he would stomp his feet and throw tantrums. And partway through the school year, he stopped doing that in school, but he continued doing it at home. And Mom looked at me and said, "Why is he still doing this at home if he's not doing it at school?" And I said, "Well, this is what we do." And I gave her strategies, and I gave her some copies of Love and Logic information, and tried to give her as much information, and then hooked her up with another person who was able to then talk to her. There is a culture gap between myself and the families that I work with, obviously. However, I think once the school year gets rolling, we're doing home visits, we're doing conferences. I'm lucky enough that I see my parents every day when they bring their children and they drop them off and pick them up. We get more of a friendship, and they begin to trust me, and that's when I'm able to start really making changes and really being able to, have some impact on the family life as well. I do a lot of listening to them so that I know where they're coming from, and I never push it because it's not worth turning a parent off. I'd rather consistently stay as, almost a friendship with them so that we're working on the same page for their children. I don't ever want it to become I know best, because I don't. They know their children way better than I'll ever know them. They see their children day in and day out. They, obviously they're their first teacher, so it turns into kind of a partnership as the year goes on. The school day is always the same. We might have gym today and art tomorrow, but they know that it always comes at the same time. They know that their picture schedule will always tell them what comes next. Everything that we do is always in the same order. So on the first day of school, they walked in the door, found their name, put it in the pocket, washed their hands, and sat down for breakfast, sat down for lunch for the PM class. It just is always the same. And when things are the same and the children know what to expect, it always comes easier because they know exactly what comes next, and it doesn't turn into transition fights. When children are out of control emotionally, I really try and look at the situation and find out what it is that they're out of control for, because there's always a reason. There's always something that's happening. And then I try and do what's best for the child. If they are out of control because they need adult attention, sometimes I'll give it to them. Sometimes if they're making bad choices within that, I'll ignore them until they're finished and then give them the attention for calming down. How am I feeling inside, though? That's kind of a different thing, because I try really hard to keep my heart rate slow when I deal with children. I've done a lot of looking at heart math, and it's a really interesting study, and they show how your heart rate really affects children's heart rate and other people around you. So the slower your own heart rate is, the children can actually feel that, and it actually slows them down. So if a child's really in crisis mode and they need somebody next to them, I'll try and approach them from behind and put my chest as close to theirs as possible, and really just try and give them that energy of just calming down. I used it with a 5-year-old the other day who's having a really hard time with her parents divorcing, and I don't think they're handling it very well in the home, and she's coming to school and is angry and is biting teachers and is really having a hard time, and trying to calm her down first and realizing that I'm not there to fight with her, but just there to help her out. And a lot of times that really helps calm children down. In the afternoon class, you saw 2 children come in with another teacher. That is a special ed class that they're not linked with our classroom at all. We have decided this year to fully include them into this room. They're about the same age. The little girl, who's actually really tall, is very young. She's actually a K2 this year. And but we felt that because they're a class of 2, it's better to have them included in a classroom where they get those social skills. So that's their teacher that comes in with them. There's also a speech pathologist who takes some of my children who have speech problems. She comes in and does pull-out work with a few kids at a time. And really, they're my 2 biggest resources, along with the school psychologist. Whenever I have behavior problems that I can't quite get a handle on, like my little boy in the morning, Keelan, he has a really hard time sitting still, needs constant sensory stimulation. So I've been doing a lot of reading online and talking to those 3 adults in our building and really trying, that's going to make it hard. Really trying to use whatever resources we have in our building. So there's special ed teacher that came in here, Ms. Clammer, with her 2 children, lent me the lap animal. So you'll see 2 of my boys sitting with it on their lap or carrying it in the hallway to help them stay grounded. A chewy tube, which, the little boy Keelan chews on it during the carpet time so that he can focus his attention a little bit better. We also have a fit sit, and he sits on it and it kind of wiggles around and it helps him him to sit still. And those are all resources that I've been able to get through those 3 adults who are really kind of tuned into children. Miss Lucas is an educational assistant, and I've been really lucky. She's been in here with me all 6 years that we've taught. So we're actually really lucky that we know each other as well as we do. We work together very well. If I have to get up because there's a parent at the door, she jumps in and sits down and just finishes the lesson as I would. We talk to the children, and when we talk to the children, the 2 of us, we're both teachers. They don't know that one is an assistant and one is a teacher. We find that that's really important for them to feel safe. They feel like they have 2 teachers in the room, but also because she's African American and she's a good role model for them, and I like that they can grow up seeing African Americans as teachers. I feel like all too often we're young white women, and the children see that, and growing up in the back of their head is that if I was white I could be the teacher, but I'm not, so I'll be the assistant someday. And we want them to be able to strive to be whatever they want to be, and we want to give them those good examples. So in this classroom they have 2 teachers. I love to watch the 3-year-olds progress throughout the year. The beginning of the year is always hard because they're brand new to school. Most of them have never been in a school setting before, so it's difficult to get them into that routine. Around Christmas time, they're perfectly in the routine, everything's great. But right about now, end of March through the whole rest of the year is just an amazing time in the K-3 classroom because they're learning so much. And this is the time where it really just all seems to click for them. They really become a community, so they're helping each other out and, very excited to be able to do things with their friends. They're also all turning 4, so their imaginations are just out of control right now, which is fun. It's fun to watch them play and really start to imagine things. I enjoy watching at the beginning of the year how they play next to each other and always looking for me to see what they're doing. And at the end of the year, they wouldn't notice I was here because they're playing together now and they're really focused on each other and their imaginative play. So that just keeps me in it. I love it.